Okay, so the first problem I think a lot of new pilots make, you see something online like, man, that FPV, it looks so fun. I want to jump in, I want to do that, and they are rushing to go out and fly, and they don't understand the respect and the care that you need to have with these crafts. Like these mini flying blenders, they can do a lot of damage, not only to themselves, to a lot of people. So if you're a new pilot and you're coming in, do not rush to get out there and fly. You need to get on the sim. You need to spend a lot of stick time just understanding how to control the drone. It's like if you're going to get a license to drive a car, you start off very slow and a lot of hours. And there is driving simulators. You have driving school instructing teachers that teach you turn left here, turn right there. The same thing happens with this. Now, if you don't have a sim, one of the other ways that you can do it, which wasn't really available when I started, was you can fly around with a tiny little whoop or a whoop size drone. You are still going to get the same stick like movements. You're still going to get that muscle memory. You're still going to learn how to set drones up, and those sorts of things that go together will be the same as this on a larger 5-inch craft. But this, it is a lot safer. It is a lot cheaper. A sim is safer again, and even cheaper than one of these things. And you need those skills. Like, in order, don't sell yourself short, or don't kid yourself, I should say. If you're a new pilot, thinking that you're going to be able to rip around a racing freestyle drone because you're good at video games or good at something, it's not going to happen. Okay, I'm telling you now. I've tried to teach some people, like even my own nephews, like, yeah, I can do that. No way. It is so much harder, and people can put that in the chat. You don't have these skills. It's like learning to ride a bike if your bike had 4 axes of movement and was inverted upside down and spinning around, and you have a visor over your face. Like, that's how tricky this stuff is. It is nothing like a normal drone out there. So you need to understand, you need to take your time to learn how to fly these. Now, one of the other big problems is they will see something online and they will think, man, I can see what Mr. Steele's doing. I want to fly like that. So they rush out and they believe this is what they have to buy. They need a 5-inch. Not everything else like that. I don't want to fly a sim. I don't want to do that. I'm going to go and buy a 5-inch as my first drone. Now, what is wrong with that? It's expensive. It's more dangerous. It can hurt people a lot quicker. This can do some serious damage to some property, and they are, I would say, arguably harder to fly. You need to get more specified locations. You just can't fly this near people. Like, you need to treat this with respect, and thinking that you're going to be the next Mr. Steele, you might be one day, but it's not why you're here in a new pilot stage. You need to learn, respect the quad, and there is nothing wrong with going a smaller quad like this, or like the Mob 8, even like the little Lightnings that I got. You can still have an absolutely amazing time just flying some of those smaller crafts. So it is not 5-inch or bust. It's not 5-inch or nothing. Get one of the other crafts first. If you are a new time pilot and you're jumping into FPV, that is a mistake you're going to make. If you buy a 5-inch as your first drone, I am telling you, that's wrong. That is not how I would do it. And what do I know? I've been here for 10 years. It's my job. I love FPV. I want you to have the best time that you can. You need to have a little bit of discipline and think, okay, yes, I want to be Mr. Steele. Yes, I want to fly around 5-inch drones. I want to do some crazy freestyle things. But that's not where you start. And you are kidding yourself. I'm going to move on to the next part. So tip number 3, if you're a new pilot coming into the hobby, you do not need the latest and greatest. I am here right now as a review channel who reviews new products all the time. I cannot stress this enough. You do not need the latest and greatest. You do not need the AJ1 gimbals. You don't need the most expensive radio. You don't need I don't know, what's a really amazing drone that's come out recently from okay, you don't need this build. You don't need my premium freestyle build drone to start. Yes, it's an amazing craft, but please save your money. You don't need to get the latest and greatest to get flying and having fun, because if you do, you are, in my opinion, wasting your money. You are so much better suited to choose the value range of things, and I feel like that is ultimately where it comes down to getting you the best bang for buck, where you can really enjoy the skies. And for me, things like, and I keep coming back to it because I truly believe in it, a pocket radio, right? Great. 65 bucks. You don't need, if you're a new pilot coming in and you're like, and I feel like this is especially teenagers that I'm talking to here, or new kids coming in, because I see it time and time again in my Discord. Here's what I'm going to get. They're going to get these because they really want these AJ1 gimbals. What for? I barely have the skills and the use to put these in. It's only as I do this as my job that I can justify this is what I'm going to fly with. Plus, it was sent for review. But if I was going to buy them, even I'd be like, okay, all right, yeah, all right, I'll get that because that's how much I fly. If you're someone starting FPV and you're thinking about getting the most expensive gimbals, you're being dumb. That's 100% how I believe. That's what I'd tell my kid. And that probably goes for any hobby. You don't need all the latest and greatest stuff. It comes to goggles, the goggles L. Do you want to buy the latest HD $0,000 things? Well, why? You don't need to do that. I can't stress that enough. And this also brings me on to this point. This is tip number 4. Goggles and your radio are the most important parts of FPV. I know we call it drone racing. Guess what the least important part is when you're flying around? And new pilots get this wrong all the time. It's drones. If you go out and you spend all your money on a premium UAVfutures freestyle build, great, fantastic, but you are flying around with the most budget, basic, cheap headset or the most budget, basic, cheap radio in order to get you in the skies, you're selling yourself so short. This inevitably is going to crash. You're going to fly this when it's going to crash. It will break one day. That's just what part of FPV racing is. You need to know, or FPV drone racing is. You need to know how to fix this. Your goggles, on the other hand, if you look after them, they're going to last you for the lifetime of your hobby, which is why it is so important. Spend your money on your goggles, on your radio. The drone is the last thing, because I'm sure you can let me know in the chat as well, how many times have you seen people saying, newcomers, I'm going to get this. They'll list a bunch of things, and then they'll put this amazing, expensive Mr. Steel super freestyle drone as their first drone build with super T motors in there and LEDs all over it. I'm just like, what are you doing? You should spend more on your goggle. There needs to be like a rule, like whatever you spend on your goggles and your radio needs to be more expensive than your drone. Like, how insane is that you would spend more on one drone than you do on the things that are on your face and on your radio? It just totally baffles my mind. So they're investing in the wrong areas, if it asks me. The next part, I want to say, if you're a new pilot coming into the hobby, one of the mistakes is you need to learn. You need to be respectful. You need to understand how dangerous these things can be. Like, it takes years to learn to fly this. So if you watch a freestyle video, you go out and you get you've got a 5-inch drone. You go and rip somewhere that these things can turn south so quickly. They don't have any GPS rescue. You can honestly injure somebody. And I'm going to talk about my inexperience here, right? When I first built my drone, there was no FPV community. People didn't know what we were doing, right? I was trying to look online, and I thought, I can fly this. Before my FPV gear turned up, I got my drone. It was bound up to my old school Taranis radio, and I thought, I'm just going to do a bit of line of sight out in the park. I went to the park. It was behind the house I lived in about 10 years ago. And this is quite dangerous, actually. I'm flying it, and it started drifting away, and I'm doing it line of sight. And thankfully, it was in self-level mode, and the drone kept going further and further and heading towards a busy road more and more. And I'm starting to freak out. I'm doing this thing where I'm walking towards the drone with the radio, praying that that's somehow going to get it back, and that's going to make a difference. Thankfully, I managed to orientate myself and get my brain wrapped around, okay, it's coming close. Okay, I understand now. This is what I'm doing. But I swear, it was very close to going over a road. And as a new, inexperienced pilot, like as soon as that landed, I picked it up, I went inside, and just the nerves and the anxiety that I got from that was a lesson I learned very quickly. And I'm trying to teach you that lesson. They are and can be a danger if you don't know what you're doing. Like any tool, anything can be dangerous. You don't just pick up a circular saw or a jigsaw or a welder and just go, putting the battery in and go on ham. You need to treat it with respect. You need to learn what you're doing. You need to learn that skill, which is why I'm saying stick to the smaller craft first. Stick to the sims first. It is, if you go and do it any other way and you go to a busy place with a 5-inch and rip it around, you're being absolutely stupid. That's my 2 cents right here. You will get a scolding from me. If I was your teacher and I was a school teacher for 10 years, there is no way I would put a 5-inch drone in some new pilot's hand and say, go for it. Just go see what you can do. I don't care if you've seen freestyle drones online. I don't care if you've seen Mr. Steele's best freestyle video of 2024 or whatever it's going to be. He'd been doing it for 10 years. You haven't. You're a new pilot. Respect the craft, respect what you're doing, be safe, and then you can enjoy it. When you get there, that's fantastic. It's going to make it even better. But trying to rush it and being impatient is just stupid. There you go. You're being dumb if you're going to do that. And then the last little tip that I would give new pilots, and this is really important, and I need to even myself reflect on this, is focus on fun, not content. I know you see it, I know you see YouTube videos of people making cool drones. I know you're excited about it. That's what got you into the hobby. You can't wait to get out there and make some really cool things. This hobby, it's best when you are flying around, having an awesome time. If you are worried about having the camera on, getting the perfect shot, it is just detrimental to what you're doing. Now, I'm in a different situation. I need to make great content to help people get flying, but if this wasn't what I was doing as a career, as a job, and I'd thank you if you'd like to support. Patreon is down below. It would be greatly appreciated. It's harder than ever to make FPV videos as your primary source of income, but people need to understand, focus on the fun. That's what it's all about. That's where this hobby is at its best. It's like if you went out to a restaurant and you were going to order an amazing meal, and it's like it's coming out and you can't wait to eat this. It tastes so good. It's your favorite super steak, whatever it is, okay? It's one of your favorite meals, but then you spend 20 minutes taking little Instagram photos of your meal that you've made. It's going to be cold by the time you eat it, and you've missed out the best part of it, which would be enjoying the actual thing itself. And that's the best part of FPV, is enjoying the skies, is flying around, is hanging out with your mates. And if you've got the camera rolling all the time, put it down. I even need to reflect on that myself, and I understand it's a different situation, but that's how you can get the most out of this hobby. Focus on the fun. That's what it's about. So there's my tips for if you're a new pilot coming in. There's some things to avoid. Don't spend too much money on the drone itself. Your goggles and your radio should come first. Respect the craft. Learn, please. Be safe, and just go and have fun. You don't have to be Mr. Steele tomorrow. You don't need Mr. Steele's gear tomorrow. You just need to fly and safe and have fun. And if you want to move there in the future, you can. All right, man. I feel like I just gave a lecture or something like that. Hopefully that didn't come across too harsh. Cliff is saying, I'm happy to fly by myself. Helps that everyone hates me. Well, I don't hate you, Cliff. I'm so glad that you're here. And why is saying I do more sim time than actual flying? Kids are saying my Sky Zone O2Xs are still going strong after all these years. It's seen countless quads through to the end. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, those were good goggles. You spent money on the goggles. I bet you those drones you started with when you're flying, when you first started flying, are not flying anymore when you got your Sky Zones, but your Sky Zones are still working. Conrad is saying we love all your vids. Thanks very much, brother. I really appreciate that because I really try. I hope that comes through. I'm just like you guys in the park, flying around, having fun with my mates, except I film it. And then I get to bring you along. So I hope I capture that. And Steve, like if you ever see him in the chat, or Stickman Steve, hopefully that comes across, because I don't want to make it out like I'm a know-it-all. I don't want to make it out like an elitist, you've only got to fly the best. I am just a normal, everyday guy who likes flying these things around with his friends in the park. I was a school teacher for 10 years, It wasn't some high-paid, super ridiculous job with all the cash in the world. And I think back to that and I think, you know what? What would I like to spend my money on? What information do I wish somebody told me when I was starting the hobby? And that's what I want to give you. So hopefully that comes across in the videos. All right.